Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to be talking about specifically what it means to have your sun in Capricorn or sun in the 10th house. My name is Brandon. I do astrology videos here on YouTube, and this is part of a much larger series that I'm doing where I go over every single planet and every single sign and house. I have a playlist down below where I've gone through everything prior to Capricorn and the 10th house, so all of those videos are down below. So if you have any planets between Sun and Saturn in any sign or house prior to Capricorn or the 10th house, there's a video down there for you. And this is the start of the Capricorn series. This is the Sun in Capricorn, Sun in the 10th house series. So it's going to be a very fun, energetic time for me. Capricorn is one of my big three, so it's one of the planetary energies I have quite a resonance with myself, and I'm really excited to be talking about this specific placement here in this specific week of everything Capricorn, everything 10th house. So a little bit of things beforehand. If you don't even know if you likely do know if you have your sun in Capricorn, but if you don't know if you have other things in the 10th house or whatever that may be, there's a link down below you can check out to see specifically how to generate your birth chart to get a better idea of where things are at. If you have your sun in the 10th house, if you have your sun in Capricorn, things like that. There's also going to be timestamps down below, so you can feel free to jump through those. I'm going to be talking about what the sun means in astrology first, and then after that I'm going to go into the sun in Capricorn and then the sun in the 10th house. So you can kind of jump around this. This is meant to be a very large playlist that people are allowed to kind of just bop around and kind of put their chart together in that way, and kind of help you out. And then finally, if there's anything that you want to ask me, feel free to put it in the comments down below. I'd love to hear what your story has been. In addition to that, if you guys want to reach out to me, all my socials down there, booking with me, all that stuff's down there too. So without further ado, let's go into what the sun means in astrology. Okay, so we have the sun in astrology. So the sun in astrology is one of the most prominent things that we kind of are raised on. So a lot of us will know if we have our sun in Capricorn or wherever our sun is placed by sign. It is different to know if our sun is placed in the 10th house, though. This would be pretty much mean that you were born at the peak of the day, local time, whatever that may be. Whether that's noon for most places, some places like 11 or 1, somewhere around that kind of time frame, you would likely have the sun near the 10th house or near that kind of pinnacle peak, if you will. Now, the sun is a lot about our identity. It's a lot about how we choose to show up in the world, what we choose to kind of show the world, and how we choose to share of ourselves. And it's more in the externalized way. So if we think about the sun being our guiding light during the day, it's like how we show up during the day, how we show up publicly, how we kind of really connect to our own identity in a lot of ways. There's a lot of identity things wrapped up in the sun. And so there is this really interesting kind of quality with the sun to also have to know about the moon and kind of the kind of play between that these two planets kind of do. These are considered the different luminaries. So if you are a sun in Capricorn and you were born during the day, your sun becomes a lot more powerful. And then obviously in the inverse is true. So if you are a sun in Capricorn but you're born during night, your moon becomes more powerful. And that's the concept of sect in astrology. And that's something that I don't have many videos on, but they do exist out there. So feel free to check that out on other channels and things. But when it comes to the sun, it is all about really our identity. It has a lot to do with our idea of leadership as well, our authority. It's kind of what we believe authority to be. So you can see the sun pretty prominent in themes related to bosses, CEOs, father figures, any sort of authoritative sort of figure that we kind of look up to, or we have to kind of be guided by in some sort of way, or be told what to do. That can kind of be seen as the sun. The sun is very leader, boss energy in that regard. And so as you can imagine, with it being in Capricorn, we'll get to that in a moment, there's a lot of benefits to that specifically, a lot of leadership qualities within that. But there is some interesting things with the sun. The sun does also, it naturally rules Leo. So when it's in the sign of Leo, it does, it's quite comfortable there. I've already done this video with this. I've done pretty much all of these outside of Aquarius. But so we have the sun in Leo, it's where it's at home. Then it's considered to be exalted in the sign of Aries, where it kind of functions at its highest potential in that regard. And then we have the signs opposite those, which are Libra and Aquarius, where the sun doesn't do as well for different reasons. And I've already done the sun Aquarius video. The sun Libra video. I'll be doing the sun Aquarius video in the next season, obviously. And I think There's a lot to be said on that specifically. But with the sun in Capricorn, it doesn't have any like insane dignity. It does struggle a little bit because Saturn does not like to be in Leo. The other kind of like swap that you can kind of do with this, with the sun in a Saturn sign, Saturn in the sun sign, wouldn't be as happy. So there is some relevancy for sun in Capricorn to also look at specifically the Saturn in Leo portion, but that's neither here nor there. Now, when it comes to the sun as well, it does have a lot to do with our vitality, our constitution, our life force, our energy. And so when the sun's in Capricorn, there's a lot of, I'm already kind of going into Capricorn stuff, but point is but wherever the sun sits, there's kind of a lot of our life force, our life energy within that, as well as the moon. They're both really important. And then the sun sign also dictates the season that we're in. So at the time we're recording this is Capricorn season. So that is why we are kind of recording these videos during Capricorn season. So the sun is in kind of this colder spot, and the sun has its own sort of way of moving within Capricorn as it would differently in other signs. So yeah, like I said, the sun is really common. Most people start with the sun. I'm not expecting a lot of people to really, you could watch the sun Capricorn video, but it's a lot more basic stuff. There's a lot more layers to this. To astrology, there's not a lot more than your sun sign. But the sun is obviously a very great and very important space to start in, and kind of know how to kind of expand from that. And that's kind of the purpose of this entire series. So yeah, so that's really the sun. And then also the sun's house placement by sign, or house placement will tell you where what you're trying to expose, shine light on, share, how you want to be seen, right? If we have the sun at the top of the chart, whether it's in Capricorn or not, it's going to be a kind of a public life, or kind of someone who's like very much out there and extroverted in that regard, versus the sun in the bottom of the chart is going to have a more internal kind of life in that regard too. And so, yeah, so if you have a sun in Capricorn, but it's in a different house, definitely check out those videos as well. But without further ado, without any more yapping, even though I'm going to do a lot more yapping, let's get on track and let's talk about the sun in Capricorn. Okay, so we have the sun in the sign of Capricorn. So the sun in Capricorn is going to have a quite cold demeanor. That's kind of how things kind of tend to start at an early age in Capricorn. And that's what we'll kind of see as we go through this specific season here with all of these Capricorn placements, because they all have this sense of maturity they need to kind of work towards. And I'm sure I'll mention this many, many times throughout the course of this specific Capricorn week, but Benjamin Button is very much on kind of brand for the Capricorn archetype of kind of aging backwards. And I think you'll see that with the sun in Capricorn. There's almost this, especially because the sun rules our vitality, rules our life force, rules our ability to utilize our own energy. And when we have the sun in a Saturn ruled sign, it's going to kind of take some time to feel its confidence, to shine as brightly as it truly wants to do. Because the sun here really wants to show itself. It really wants to show what it wants to be. It wants to be proud of itself. It wants to be proud of its accomplishments. But the thing with that is you can't be proud of your accomplishments if you haven't accomplished anything, right? You have to do the work. You have to be consistent. You have to consistently go towards your goals, and then it might take many, many, many years. But then you will have that confidence. You will have that brightness, and it takes time, right? It takes a lot of time. Time is the biggest asset to all Capricorn placements. It's the biggest asset in general within life, but for Capricorn placements in like overall, Saturn and time are going to be the connection with time and the connection with understanding and respecting one's time and understanding one's like maturity level and where they're at, and like trusting that things will catch up and they will have their time in the spotlight. That is what Capricorn is all about. And the sun is literally about wanting to be seen, right? And so the thing with sun Capricorn, there can be this very like quiet sort of personality for the most part. Obviously, you want to look to the entirety of the chart, right? If you have sun in Capricorn and you also have Jupiter, you have other stuff going on, very different. But overall, the sun in Capricorn just as a standalone is going to have this kind of like reserved quality, this kind of quiet confidence, or this quiet sort of like knowing how to utilize its energy very efficiently. That's why Mars, the planet of action, does really, really well in Capricorn. But when we think about the sun in Capricorn, this is literally our life force, it is partially our energy, but it is also our identity. It's how we show up. And so you see sun in Capricorn as kind of like meek for quite a while, or kind of, shut in, or kind of like really shy. But then as they age and as they come out, these are people that will go off of social media for years on end. And then they come back with an immense glow up, right? Saturn energy is very, very, very much linked to like a glow up energy of coming out and just being entirely different and doing the work and putting in the time, putting the effort, and really, really changing how they see themselves, how others will see them, and the respect that they will get over time as they put in the work, as they've built that confidence from within. So a lot of what I tend to see, and this is also more so true with the moon in Capricorn. There's a little bit of Venus here, but there's this aspect of Capricorn that's very linked to the idea of intrinsic value and kind of being guided by your intrinsic kind of self-worth and self-value, and your kind of knowing within you of what you are worth and what you are desiring of, and what you strive to be. So there's a lot of striving when it comes to Capricorn, and wanting to get somewhere, do something, be something, but it takes time. It takes patience. And it does, there is a lot of very strong leadership energy for sun in Capricorn individuals, because when we have the sun in a sign that's associated with bosses and leadership in general and CEOs and long, really sturdy success and sturdy boundaries, right? When we put the sun there, these are people that know, they know where the lines are, and they know how to draw them, and they know how to be very, very meticulous on ensuring that they are either an authority, or that they are in some sort of control, or that they are respected. There's a lot of respect that I think the sun in Capricorn, as they age, really, really gains, because it's almost like people doubted them for so long, and then they just really, really hammered it out, and they understood the value of their time, and the long-term vision that they had. And some sun in Capricorn individuals, and I would love to hear from people that have this sun in Capricorn, but some of them I've heard have very early on known what they want to be, and they just knew it would take a very long time to get there, and they started that effort very, very early on. And that's something that's very Capricorn-like, of kind of growing up too quickly. There's a sense of maturity being thrust upon them. And so when you think about the sun in Capricorn, there's also this aspect of kind of bringing back and revitalizing that relationship with the inner child. And this is kind of more so kind of a callback to the Saturn and Leo video that I had done a few months ago. But the idea of the sun is our life, our vitality, our creativity, our inner child, like what really makes us feel alive. And when it's in this very cold, bleak, heavy energy of Capricorn and Saturn, it kind of doesn't have that. It has to grow up really quickly. It has to be responsible from a very early age. And it doesn't have that ability to be a child again. And I think that's something we tend to see with the sun in Capricorn, is this kind of ability to, like I said, age backwards, and they kind of become more youthful as they mature, and as they solidify their specific lesson that they're supposed to do here. So as they age, as they have a career, as they get into their job, and as they continue working at their job, and as they respect themselves, and as the people respect them for the work that they have accomplished, things that they have done, then that is when the sun in Capricorn can say, okay, now I can have more fun, I can do more things. It's really important for sun in Capricorn individuals to, especially prior to the Saturn return, really, really take care of that inner critic and that kind of really hard sense of self that they have, where they're like, I'm not doing enough, I'm not doing all these things. And it's interesting because when we think about Saturn in Leo, part of the reason why Saturn does not do well in Leo is because it is so critical of such a personal thing, right? When it comes to criticizing yourself, we do it all day. All of us do it. It's just a thing all of us do. Yes, and it takes a long time to have self-acceptance. That's something that I think that all Capricorn placements, especially the Sun in Capricorn, really needs to understand, is this idea of self-acceptance and self-love. But what I think is really interesting about this kind of issue with Saturn and Leo, which can kind of also be translated to some degree for the Sun in Capricorn, is this idea that you're constantly critiquing yourself. You're constantly kind of comparing yourself, and comparison is the thief of joy, is that kind of phrase that has been said many times over. And it's almost like Saturn wants you to fit in. It wants you to fit in, to understand your role, to understand what you're doing, to know what you want to do here, to be strategic, to be patient on that process. But it's also so personal when it's the Sun. It's like an identity crisis, an identity like attack all the time, coming from yourself, right? And that's why like that internal self-love is so important for all Capricorn placements. But I think there's an issue when we think about Saturn and Leo, Sun in Capricorn, and that kind of conversation about constantly critiquing yourself. When the thing is, you yourself are vastly unique. You are so unique to the point that trying to fit in boxes that other people are saying, trying to fit into what other people are doing is not going to work. And it's going to be really difficult, and you're going to be really hard because you're going to want to fit yourself into different boxes, and you're going to want to learn who you are. And that's just a life process. That's just, everyone has that thing. But the Sun in Capricorn has it a little bit more prominently as like more of a harder kind of battle. But the thing with Saturn, the thing with Capricorn, and this is one of the things I really love about particular my chart being Capricorn rising, where when you solidify something, it stays. When you build something, it's there. And it yes, it takes time. It takes time to build it. It takes time to preserve it. But once it's there and it has that foundation, you're good. You're set. You can build on from there. And that's one of the things that Saturn really teaches, and Capricorn placements really need to learn, is the power of patience and building in such an indestructible sort of way, where you have done the inner work, you have done the identity kind of breaking apart and kind of really big critique kind of quality that the Sun does in Capricorn, and you have reached a level of, okay, this is my foundation. I've built this. I know who I am. I know what I want. And now let's build from there. And it might take years, right? It might take a while. And that's part of what Saturn really appreciates, is patience and time. And I think it's really beautiful to see, as a Capricorn rising myself, as Saturn has moved on and continues to move on in a very slow, arduous, kind of really step-by-step way. It has taught me so much, and my relationship with myself during my Saturn return was such a prominent change. And that's something I want to also bring up here, and I'm going to bring this up probably in every single Capricorn video. But the idea of the Saturn return is extremely important. The more Capricorn, the more Aquarius placements that you have, because those are placements that are ruled by Saturn, the planet itself. And so when you have planets in Capricorn, and especially Capricorn, you're going to want to look to what Saturn is doing in your chart. And whether you are pre-Saturn return or post-Saturn return. Easy way to know that is if you are prior to the age around 28 or so, or post the age around 30, 32. Like if you're kind of in that 28 to 30, 32 range, you're probably going through your Saturn return. If you are prior to that, you are not in your Saturn return. It can happen at like 27, depending upon when your birthday is, things like that. But if you're in your 20s, mid-20s, you're not in your Saturn return. If you're in your late 20s to early 30s, you are in your Saturn return or finishing your Saturn return. And that time period is beyond transformational, just as a life experience. It is such a powerful, grounding, karmic time, because Saturn really wants you to learn specifically what it is that your lesson is here in a grounded, practical, career-based way, and kind of what you're here to do on Earth in this 3D reality. That is what Saturn really rules. It rules those restrictions, those boundaries, those like the form that we do things in, the structures, and how we structure our life. And so when we have Saturn in ruling our Sun, it takes a long time for us to figure out who we are, what we want to do, our identity, and it allows us a lot to learn how to connect with our own creativity, our own creative nature. And something that I think is really important to understand is when you're in your Saturn return. And I'm gonna put this video down below here, because I only really put this in the Saturn videos, but I am gonna put it in this whole week for Capricorn. There's a video I did where I talked about what Saturn does in different cycles with other astrologer, and I would recommend you check that out, because I talk about the Saturn cycles where the age of 7, 14, 21, and 28, and then 35, 42, things of that nature, kind of the power within those ages, and what you can expect during Saturn's kind of cycle of a long transit of building up your own sense of identity, your own sense of self-worth, self-confidence. And so look to where your Saturn is, because this is going to have a lot of importance in your specific chart. So if you are a sun in Capricorn, but your Saturn's in Gemini, look to your Saturn in Gemini, because that's going to help you understand what lessons you need to learn specifically to help you really foster that inner sense of self-confidence and that self-esteem that Saturn really wants. And typically during your Saturn return, that will really unlock a lot of stuff. The more Capricorn placements you have during your Saturn return, the more transformative of a change you are going to have. And it's in a good way. It's almost like you've waited for this for your whole life, and now here it is. And it's, how do I work with it? How do I expand upon it? How do I use all the stuff I've built for this many years, and then further build upon it? Or, what do I do now that this gift has been given? How do I work with that? So Saturn is very much the hard, heavy teacher who is grading your test really, really strict in a very, very regimented way. And that's what you can expect with the sun in Capricorn is kind of this very strict identity, strict way of looking at yourself, strict kind of creative process. But there can also be a career in creativity as well with the sun in Capricorn. So be aware of that. In and of itself, there's a lot of things there that I can really, really see. Now, I think it is important to bring up as well with the sun in Capricorn, the idea of this cardinal Earth sign that we tend to see here, with cardinal being kind of starting new things. This is the time that we have the winter solstice in the northern hemisphere, where we start winter officially when the sun goes into Capricorn, and it's this very cold, rigid, what are we starting, what are we doing? It's also on the new year, where a lot of people will start and set their new intentions. And in Capricorn, it is also an earth sign, so there is a sense of starting new physical ventures, new grounded things. There's a lot of career things that are associated with the sun in Capricorn, and just Capricorn in general has that kind of importance of career in that regard. So when the sun is in Capricorn, it's important to know that this is when we are kind of planting the seeds, when we're really setting our long-term goals. And it's very, very fitting every year around the new year to have this be what Capricorn does in this Capricorn season, to just really plant those seeds and really figure out what it is that you want to be and how you want to be that. And it's really beautiful to see. And so, yeah, if you have your sun in Capricorn, like I said, look to see what Saturn is doing. Look to see what your sun is doing as well, to kind of get a better idea of what you're being asked to, kind of to be patient with, what specific skill you have to be patient with. And obviously, if that Saturn video is out, I'd recommend you definitely check it out, because it's going to give you a lot of context of what it is that you're trying to learn in this life, both by Saturn's placement by house and by sign. So that'll give you a lot of context there. And then, yeah, of course, like I said, the sun could be in Capricorn. There could be so many different other things going on. Obviously, the moon sign's very important there too, to see what else is happening for you. If you are, and then also, of course, if you are ruled by, if you are a Capricorn sun, obviously, but if you're ruled by, if you are a Leo rising with Capricorn sun, that sun becomes really important as well. So just be aware of that in and of itself. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the sun in Capricorn. I'd love to hear what you guys think about this. I love doing this. This is such a fun series to be doing. Like I said, Capricorn season is such a fun, long, arduous one, but I'm really excited to be doing it. And I think there's a lot of conversations that I hope can come from this, and I hope this helps some of you. That's what my intention always is to help people with this, and I'd love to do this. If you guys have any questions, feel free to put them down in the comments down there. But then I'm going to move on to the next part, where we talk about specifically what the sun means in the 10th house. So see you guys in the next part, and yeah. Okay, so we have the sun in the 10th house. So this is a placement that has a little bit of a difference of expression than it does with the sun in Capricorn. So they both have leadership qualities. The sun in the 10th has natural leadership qualities because you are being asked to show yourself publicly. You are going to be a leader. You are going to be up there. You're going to be public. You're going to be the face of something. That's kind of what the sun wants to do into the top of the chart. It's during the day. It's bright. It's the brightest time during the day where your sun is up there. It's really, really prominent, really, really seen and exposed, and it's very public. So there's a lot of publicity here. There's a lot of leaders here. A lot of public figures have the sun in the 10th house, or people that become a brand or a face of something. Because the sun is literally kind of like our face to some degree, or our branding, or our messaging. And so with the sun up there, it definitely has a lot of connections to publicity, bosses, CEOs, public figures, politicians, anyone that's kind of up there and is kind of seen very, very highly, right? Now, I am going to go through the sun in different signs here. I want to let you know I've done the sun in pretty much every sign prior to this, so just know that you can also watch those videos, and I would recommend you watch those videos first before you watch the house placement video, to get a better idea of what it is that your specific sun placement does in and of itself prior to it being placed in 10th house. Because the 10th house sun is going to have a very public-facing sort of life, and the sun in certain signs are going to function very differently. But I recommend you check out the sun's sign first before you look at the sun house placement, because I'm only going to really go over these for like a little bit of time. So without further ado, let's start. So we have the sun in a Martian world sign. So the sun in Aries or the sun in Scorpio. Sun in Aries in the 10th. This is these charts are huge, right? I know 3 people that are sun in Aries in the 10th house, all of which are public facing, right? And that's because the sun is exalted in Aries. This is one of the most prominent and easiest placements to get you to success, and public success and publicity and all that stuff and recognition. There's this like immediate recognition, like you become a face of something. So a couple of them, I'm going to just kind of reference them. One of which is an owner of a business, right? That's very much that. They're kind of a face of a business in that regard. They're an Aries sun in the 10th. And then another one is a family member of a friend of mine who has a sun in Aries in the 10th house, and he, during his Saturn return, just like shot up to like the top of a company after learning, this specific skill really, really, really intensely, and just shot up really, really fast. And then the third one is actually a reader that I know who became a face of a specific bar in the Chicagoland area, and then also got on TV, which is very sun Aries in the 10th house. They just kind of be thrust up there, and they're just public, and they're just seen, and it's just very much that. Now, thing with sun Aries, thing with sun in the 10th house in general, I kind of want to say this here now. Sun in the 10th house, it's hard being a public figure. I think it's something that needs to be referenced here, because when the sun's in the 10th, especially in Aries, it makes that public life so bright and so important and so there, and you want to be up there, and you're going to be seen that way, and it's going to be a thing, right? But then it's about that balance to bring it down to the home life, to the private life. So the sun in the 10th, it needs to find some balance in that work life, like work, private life balance. Like there needs to be a very distinct kind of separation. And I think when the sun is exalted in the 10th, it can just throw it up there and just stay up there, but it needs to have that balance. And that's important for all the sun 10th house people, but when the sun is really strong in the 10th, whether it's Leo or Aries, or even, has a lot of, like, even like a Jupiter ruled sign up there is going to pretty much bring them up there too. It's important to kind of have a sense of groundedness with that. So make sure that's part of your plan. Sun in Scorpio in the 10th. This is someone who had some very unethical bosses and then became their own boss. Typically, that's kind of what you'll see with Sun in Scorpio, because there is a sense of power struggle, power dynamic with people. With the Sun in Scorpio in the 10th, it's a little tricky up there, because the 10th house sun can be this kind of public kind of thing that Scorpio doesn't want to be seen in that way, and so there's a sense of like not wanting to be needing to fight for its identity publicly. So there could be a lot of really interesting projections on this particular sun sign here. Now, Sun in Venus ruled signs, so Sun in Taurus or Libra at the 10th house. These are going to be placements that the sun can do well. It's more, these are more people that are more artists and lawyers and people that have more of a relational kind of thing. They're very beautiful. The sun in Taurus is just a very beautiful placement, as well as sun in Libra, but they're beautiful for different reasons. Sun in Taurus in the 10th is almost this beauty that is very material, very much look at me but don't touch me kind of thing. Very much like extravagance in that regard. There could be a lot of like careers in banking in that way too. And that's the thing, the career is related to the 10th house, and so when we have the sun in the 10th house, your career is literally you and your brand and your face and what you want to give your energy to, give your light to. And that's why these people could become leaders pretty quickly, and become pretty well known in their company or whatever they choose to do very quickly. Sun in Libra, different facing thing. This is where you'll see they're mainly shown for legal purposes, like meaning like they're lawyers, or like that's how they do really well when they're advocating, when they're supporting someone else. And their career is focused around other people, is focused around relational things, purifying relationships, help people out with those things. That's part of the Sun Libra there too. Sun and Mercury versus both Gemini and Virgo at the top of the chart. These are going to be careers in tech, working in communications, working in writing, working in libraries, working in medicine could be a really big thing for Sun Virgo. Like this could be like a medical, like company CEO in that regard. There could be something with that with Sun and Virgo. There's a lot of stuff there with Sun and Virgo the 10th. Now there is a interesting one here, going back a little bit. The sun in Taurus in the 10th. This is going to make you have a Leo rising. So this sun is really important here. So your value is really, really important as a Leo rising to see where your sun's at. So it's your chart ruler in the 10th house with Taurus sun. So kind of to go back to that for a second. Important to know that your sun here really becomes really important. Your branding of your own values, your own morals, your own ethics. So make sure you are aware of what messaging, what value you're bringing to a situation, and be very, very strong within that messaging, and be very aware of the values and the money and the material things that you're providing to your business. There's a lot of financial stuff here, so I would recommend going into banking for sure if you are a Leo rising with the sun in the 10th in Taurus. So that's part of it there. Anywho, back to what I was saying. So Sun, Mercury, both Gemini and Virgo. These are both like journalism things, but more so for Gemini is more of the journalism. Virgo is more of the planner, the executionist, the data analyst, the kind of healthcare person, healthcare CEO, right? That could be part of it. And then we have Sun in, and also, of course, all of these you want to look to the ruler of the sun as well to see what's going on. So if Sun's in a Martian world sign, look to Mars. Venus, look to Venus, so on and so forth. Now, Sun in its own sign in Leo at the top of the chart. Once again, really great one here. This could also be working for yourself, having your own business, creative business, working with children, working with arts in that regard. Similar to Sun in Taurus in the 10th can also do that too. There's like an artist kind of vibe to that. Sun in Cancer here in the 10th. This is similar to what I said with Sun in Scorpio at the top. This is a very private person that's forced to be up there. So they could have a career in anything maternal, anything real estate, anything relative to caretaking for someone, having a career that's very, that becomes very motherly or projected upon as very motherly. There's a part of that there. Yeah, that's its own thing. And then Sun in Jupiter ruled signs, so both in Sagittarius and Pisces. These are both placements that have a lot of faith behind them, and so Sun in another fire sign. So the thing with Sun and Sag in the 10th, it's gonna have a lot of support because it's the two other fire signs, Aries and Leo, are both really good placements. So the Sun in Sag does really well at the top of the chart. This is more like a career specific with religion, philosophy, cultural like kind of things. And same with Sun in Pisces, but Sun in Pisces is a little bit different, where it has more of, this is where you'll see a lot of healers, a lot of spiritual leaders, a lot of very much spiritual leaders, energy, a lot of occultists in that regard, similar to also Sun in, and like the Sun in water can just do that, where there's like very psychic energy, psychic career, working in like a very spiritual, sensitive, therapeutic space. Yeah, and then like I said, the Sun in Sag, it's a very excitable energy. It can kind of be all over the place, but it is still very helpful to have the Sun up there in Sag. There's a lot of like philosophical things in that regard there, like what you do for your career, kind of find the meaning in your life and stuff like that. There's a lot of that. That's really, I like that one a lot actually. And then finally Sun in Saturn's ruled signs, so Sun in Capricorn and Sun in Aquarius. These are both placements that are going to delay that kind of ability to be seen. So now if you put Sun in Aquarius at the top of the chart, there's almost like they want to be seen for a nonprofit thing. They want to be seen not for them, but what they're doing. And that's going to be a little bit rough with the sun in Aquarius. I'll get to that when I end up doing sun in Aquarius videos. But the sun in Capricorn has, like I said, a very much of a delay in its ability to feel like it is responsible for something. It can have that. And that's the thing. Responsibility is given to people in a 10th house way. And I think it's about that sun's power in the 10th house of how you respond to that responsibility, respond to that role, respond to that authority that you are now being given or that you are having being pressed upon you. That's a lot of what the 10th house sun's about. And Sun Aquarius can have a lot of struggle with that in the 10th house where they're almost like, oh, I don't know how to do that. How do I do these things? I don't understand. I don't like, and they kind of look to their audience, look to those things, and that's not really the best. It can be a good leader when you're doing nonprofit, when you're doing grant writing, when you're doing things that are humanitarian and things that are supporting of a society and of a group, but a leader needs to be able to stand on those convictions as well. So that's something you'll see with like Sun Aquarius that can kind of struggle, or just Aquarius in general can struggle with kind of listening to the audience too much. And we'll get to that when we get to the Aquarius 11th house stuff. But overall, the Sun in the 10th has a lot of authoritative things. A lot of authorities will kind of push down on it. So there are going to be a lot of like public scrutiny as well, whether it comes from internalized from their own family dynamic, or from their bosses, or from society at large, depending upon what's going on with their sun, and what else is happening there. But it's important to look at what else is going on in the chart. Of course, if there's not other planets in the 10th house, it's going to be a very public life, and there's a lot of activity up there. If Mars is up there, of course, it's going to be a lot of activity. Saturn as well is going to kind of really stabilize that career, and there's going to be a lot more kind of lessons around that. And look to the ruler of the sun as well, like I had said. Look to see what's going on with that. Look to see what else is happening at that 10th house, because that's a very important part of the chart, and we'll be going into that a lot throughout the course of this series here. But the sun overall in the 10th is all about you being up there, you being seen, you being okay to be seen, you allowing yourself to be seen, and accepting that, and accepting your role, accepting your power, accepting your place in a good way, accepting that you can be at the top of your game, you can be at the top of something, you can be in control, you can be in authority, right? You have that power. And that's true for Sun in Capricorn as well. But Sun in the 10th, it's very much like a visible thing. And the Sun in the 10th can be in any sign. And so the Sun in the 10th, like I said, in Aries, you just kind of get thrusted into it, and you know how to be seen. You're okay with being seen in that regard. Same with Sun in Leo, but then we put the Sun in other signs, and it can kind of play out differently. But overall, quick little thing, Sun in Fire does really well in the 10th house because it's just fire, and it just wants to do more things and wants to be seen and get stuff done. Sun in Air can kind of be a lot of chatty stuff, a lot of social careers, a lot of careers around different like social dynamics or just information sharing. So social media, fashion, relational, PR, HR, law, anything like that. And then the Sun in an Earth sign can be very practical, obviously very grounded, materialistic to some degree, but a lot of service orientation with Virgo, a lot of physical, like financial orientation with Taurus, like physical, tangible, like wealth and resources and those things and beautifying things. And then with Capricorn, obviously, it's a lot of like just being someone, being someone, being something. That's something the Sun in the 10th just kind of does anyway. You're meant to be someone, be something. And then finally, Sun in Water in the 10th. These are our psychics. These are our intuitives. These are our people that are advocating. These are our therapists. These are the ones that are very much connected to something very much more deeper. When the Sun's in a water sign, it's very much connected to this internal emotional kind of flowing. So there's a lot of emotional careers that you'll see with Sun 10th house. People that's in a water sign, so Sun in Cancer, Scorpio, or Pisces. And so there's a lot of different ways that the Sun can play out here. Like I said, it's important to look at what else is going on with the Sun, if the Sun has aspects to it, like squares and things. So hope this helps you. This is a lot. I've been kind of yapping for a little bit here. But I appreciate you for being here and listening to me yap about the Sun in the 10th and the Sun in Capricorn. It's quite a fun placement. There's a lot of authoritative things going on here. A lot of needs to strive towards something, and it's about the confidence of striving towards that thing. And like I said, look to your Saturn placement, look to your 10th house ruler, and then of course, watch that Saturn video if you do have a prominent Saturn. We all have a prominent Saturn, but if you have a lot of Capricorn placements, you're going to have a lot more prominent Saturn energy. So anyone that has a Capricorn placement, I recommend watching those videos down there. But yeah, I really love doing this, and I hope this helps everyone that comes across it, just with some validation, with some confirmation that you're on the right path. And I promise you, with the Sun in the 10th, you are going to be seen, and it's about that acceptance of being seen. And that power within that process. And so I appreciate you for listening to me go through this. And if you have any questions about this, feel free to comment down below. I'd love to hear your story, how it was like for you, as well as if you have any any like insight into what the sun in the 10th house has been for you, I'd love to hear that as well. And then obviously if you're interested in any of my stuff here, feel free to like, comment, share, subscribe. And then of course, if you want to book with me, there's stuff down there below. So thank you so much for being here with me. I appreciate you. And let's get it rolling for the rest of the Capricorn season. So appreciate you guys. I love you, and I will talk to you all soon.